Hello, everyone. Big news from Buckingham Palace. The Queen is now, for the first time, acknowledging the intense scrutiny endured by Harry and Meghan. In this palace statement released just Saturday, the Queen writes, "I recognize the challenges they have experienced and support their wish for a more independent life." So that's it. No royal title, no royal duties, no tours in exchange for a new life in Canada. Just a couple of years ago, it was a very different story. Harry and Meghan spoke glowingly about how the palace was embracing their relationship.
We've just had a really nice time getting to know them and progressively helping me feel a part of not just the institution, but also part of the family, which has been really, really special.
But it didn't take long before Harry was criticizing the British media for introducing what he called racial undertones into their coverage of the relationship. Here's a quick side-by-side comparison courtesy of BuzzFeed. So that's Kate Middleton's headline on the right saying, "Pregnant Kate tenderly cradles her baby bump." Meghan Markle's is on the left there. "Why can't Markle keep her hands off her bump? Pride, vanity, acting?" Here's another. "The Duchess of Cambridge's secrets to looking sizzling" versus "My memo to Markle, we Brits prefer true royalty to fashion royalty." So now there's a fierce debate in the UK media about whether racism is part of the reason they've decided to call it quits. Here's how it's playing out on TV.
You say we're demonizing a woman of colour. You're the one bringing race into this. I've seen no...
That's actually Prince Harry made a statement about how racist British media has
they are driving a narrative that this is all driven by sexism and racism, which I think is completely grotesquely wrong.
So is Prince Harry someone who sees everything as racist?
I think he's being encouraged to, yes.
And on it goes. It's been going on for days now. The media and the royals, they've had a turbulent relationship for years, a power struggle that reached a fever pitch back in 1997 when Princess Diana died in a car crash while being chased by paparazzi. Remember this shot from her funeral with Harry walking behind his mom's casket? He was just 11 years old. And he says every time that he hears the flash of a camera, he's brought back to the day she died.
Everything that she went through and what happened to her is incredibly raw every single day, and that's not me being paranoid, that's just me not wanting a repeat of the past. And if anybody else knew what I knew, be it a father, be it a husband, be it anyone, you'd probably be doing exactly what I'm doing as well.
So now, of course, Harry and Meghan have announced they're going to go it alone. They've set up their own media strategy. They're even suing the tabloids for what they call ruthless coverage. But here's the thing. Harry's family, the monarchy itself, has an agreement with those tabloids, an official deal. And here's how it works. Most of the tabloids are part of the so-called royal rota. They're given exclusive access to the royal family, its events, and all the official royal photos. And of course, that helps sell a lot of papers. But there's an unofficial deal, too. Royal historians say there's an unspoken agreement where more access can mean less negative coverage. In 2005, reporters had just negotiated something called a photo call. Basically, we'll give you these photos if you leave us alone for the rest of our holiday. Harry's father, Prince Charles, got caught on a hot mic.
Bloody brilliant. I got better. He's so brilliant. This is so much fun.
I can't bear them. Well, they may not have liked it, but that's how it's always worked. It's tradition. But then, since their engagement, Harry and Meghan have been breaking some of those unspoken rules, like not doing what Kate and William did after the birth of their first child. There they are on the hospital steps, big wave to hundreds of cameras awaiting, a royal tradition that goes back 3 decades. Meghan and Harry, well, they kept Archie's birth private. No photo shoots on the hospital steps for them. And the coverage of Meghan, it just got worse, particularly on social media. A study done by the University of Sunderland captured just how much hate she gets. They say that there were at least 400 tweets in a 24-hour span that contained abusive, sexist, or racist insults, including self-loathing race traitor, trailer trash, and Meghan, the Queen of Monkey Island. It soon became obvious that Meghan had had enough. An ITV reporter asked her back in October if she was okay.
You add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed, it's, yeah, well, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
Joining me now from New York is Morgan Jerkins. She's a New York Times bestselling author, the senior editor of Zora magazine, a publication by and about women of color. So, Morgan, I want to start with getting your reaction to the first announcement that Harry and Meghan announcing that they were stepping aside.
I was shocked, exhilarated. I didn't think they were actually going to decide to step away, and also to announce it on Instagram. I mean, it was, like I said in my article, that was a very strategic and millennial move.
That's their announcement. What do you think of the coverage of them, of some of the coverage of Meghan by the British press?
Violent, I would say. I would say violent and unfair. I mean, Meghan had so many strikes against her. She's the daughter of a black woman, for one. She's an American. She's a divorcee, and she's also a commoner. I know that's kind of an antiquated term, but she is. And so she had a lot of strikes against her. And we saw how the British press and the media in general was taking a toll on her with an interview that she did last October, where she was on the verge of tears, speaking to a reporter who was asking her about how she was doing. And she said that, you know, not many people ask her how she's doing, and it was a struggle, and it was tough to watch for me personally.
Prince Harry has made some comments that have been interpreted by some as being a denunciation not just of the coverage by the press, but of what he suggests could be the failure of the royal family to denounce that coverage. I mean, what's your sense of how they have handled the coverage of Meghan?
They haven't handled it well. I mean, when I saw that interview that I just spoke about, how she was so upset when no one was asking her how she was doing, I thought to myself, well, what about the royal family? Why haven't they defended her? That's not to say that the royal family can control the British press, but they could have established a unified front and to say that this is racist and sexist treatment of the Duchess of Sussex, and they didn't do that. And I was upset for her, and I think she had to do what she had to do to protect herself and her family, and especially her mental health.
You've written that the royal family just hasn't learned a lesson from Princess Diana. What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is we know that the media took a toll on Princess Diana as well. In fact, Prince Harry even said before, and that it was reported that he's still traumatized by what happened with his mother's untimely death and also with the way the media portrayed her. And even when Princess Diana was an HRH, prior to her divorce, she even spoke about how the media was taking a toll. And, you know, they were ripping her apart, not in the same way as Meghan Markle, but they were very, very vicious. And it seems like the royal family isn't supporting Meghan either, so they haven't learned the lessons from over 20 years ago.
You've made comparisons between Diana and Meghan as sort of these rebellious, almost outsiders, but there's a difference, right? One is white, or was white.
Right. The other difference is that Princess Diana, excuse me, she's from one of the oldest aristocratic families in England. So the argument can be made that she had an inkling of what the royal family would be like, and of course, Meghan Markle wouldn't have known that. She's not part of the aristocracy. She's also an American. And so the way that I see it, from a black American woman's perspective, if the media would pick apart a blonde white woman who is also an aristocrat, what do you think they're going to do to a black American woman who is also a commoner?
So, Morgan, I asked a former press secretary to the Queen, he's now a royal commentator, Dickie Arbiter, about the use of the word uppity that's been applied to Meghan, and he says it has a different connotation in the UK. Here's Dickie Arbiter.
In the UK, uppity means somebody who's very grand and probably feels more important than they really are. But across your side of the pond, and particularly in the United States, it has a connotation towards the slave trade. And I think you've got to forgive the Brits for using language that is fairly common in this country, but has a different and has a racial overtone in other parts of the world.
So what do you think?
It's a minefield for me. because when I hear of a white person calling a black woman uppity, the first thing I think of is it's almost as if they're saying implicitly that this person doesn't know her place. And so for me, I would want to ask, well, what is it about her demeanor that gives you the sense that she's acting too big for her britches? She's a royal, just like the rest of them. And when you say that someone's acting uppity, and let's say that it's because she doesn't know her place, what is her place? And are you trying to imply that she has no place in the royal family?
It's really interesting to see the difference between the coverage of Meghan Markle and their decision and the reaction to the coverage over there. Just the reaction in the U.S. is so different from that in the U.K. Why such a difference?
I mean, I think it's going to be, there's racism on both sides of the pond. I mean, you can find racist people in North America just like in England. You can find people rallying for Meghan in England, just like in the United States. But I think it might be a little bit different because, you know, Americans, we don't have a royal family. We have the first family. We don't have a royal family. So there is this fascination with princes and princesses and dukes and duchesses. But in England, in the UK, it hits a little bit closer to home. So I definitely feel like it's going to be a lot stronger in that case in England, if I do say so myself.
Morgan Jerkins, it's been great to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Morgan Jerkins in New York City.